Welcome to Her Mentor. I'm Kelly, and I will be your host for this experience. I'm so excited that episode 1 is finally here and that I'm welcoming you all into this project that I've been so passionate about and so excited about. So, why don't we start with what the heck is Her Mentor? Um, Naming a podcast is hard, guys. Naming a podcast is hard, but I think that Her Mentor fits, and I hope that after I explain this concept to you that it makes more sense. So, Her Mentor is a podcast designed for women early in their sales careers to learn from folks who've been in the exact same positions as them in the past. This is going to be a space where you're going to learn from other female mentors and hopefully take a lot from these conversations. These conversations are designed to feel very simple, very informal, very just go with the flow. There is going to be a format and kind of a flow and a few things that we touch on in every episode, but we really want this to feel like a space where you're just kind of hopping on and learning from someone else and having a conversation with them. This is really designed to be a space for women to connect and for community to be created. So that's what Her Mentor is. But why did I feel the need to create Her Mentor? I really want to share this with you because I think it will provide some context and explain exactly what I'm looking to accomplish with this podcast and this community that we're building. So Her Mentor is truly a passion project. It's something that I think in any situation that I'm in is going to be something that I want to prioritize, and this community is going to be so important to me. I'm so excited about it because it's something that I guess there's two branches here. First, it's something that younger, earlier in my career, me really wished I had. So, like, I'm thinking of young Kelly, December of 2019, stepping into my first ever sales job. But I'm also thinking of Kelly pre-graduating from PR, looking for a job and being like, maybe I take a sales job. Is that something I consider? So I'm thinking of that version of myself and the kinds of things I wish I knew and I wish I had people to learn from, but transparently I didn't know where to find that information and I didn't have those direct connections in my life at that time to learn from. So that's one piece is I just want to give little Kelly the thing that she wished that she had because I know that I wanted that when I was younger. So there's probably at least one other person out there who really wants that in that current role right now. Then the second piece of what Her Mentor is and where it's coming from is all of these conversations that I'm currently having. So a little bit of context on myself and apologies. We're going to be jumping around a little bit in this episode since it is transparently my first time ever recording an episode of a podcast alone. And this is all really new to me. So apologies that we're going to be jumping around a lot. But when I first started my business, so right now I'm in the process of building up a consulting business where I work with individual reps, mostly SDRs, BDRs that are new, or folks who are looking to land an SDR or BDR role for the first time, as well as working with SDR teams, as well as working with founders that are looking to build out an outbound motion, but might just not know where to start. So I have a consulting business where I'm doing all of that. A big part of building that business is connecting with folks in that space and having conversations and making sure that I know exactly what the market needs, making sure that I'm providing a really great service to these folks. That's not what this podcast is about, but I felt like I had to mention it because that's where a lot of these conversations and themes are coming from that are going to be reflected in Her Mentor. So as I've been having these conversations with folks and learning from folks about what they want in my consulting business, we're also talking about just life in general, being a woman in sales, if it is a woman that I'm talking to, all of those things that come up in these conversations have been really insightful and have shown me that The experience that I was having early on in my career of really craving and wishing that something like this podcast existed and that I could learn from other people and that I had more visibility into career paths and more visibility into like what should I be doing every day and more advice on how do I overcome feeling like I'm not good enough. I feel like I'm working really hard, but I'm not being recognized. How do I get to the next level of my career? All of those conversations were coming up with folks, and it seemed like a lot of women were dealing with the same challenges. So that made me kind of start looking into things like, okay, everybody that I've talked to said that they had like extreme imposter syndrome and wish that they would have just gotten over that sooner because they would have landed their first sales role sooner, probably. They would have applied to that AE role and gotten that promotion sooner. They would have not shied away from putting themselves out there. They wouldn't have felt as scared to make their first cold calls. All of those pieces coming together. So all of those conversations had an element in common and these themes in common. So that's when I started doing some research. It's like, okay, all of these women are feeling the same things. What do we do with this information? This is weird that everyone feels this way. Do I make my business focused on women? I don't think so. Like, I love the idea of helping everyone in the outbound sales space. Like, that doesn't feel right. What's going on here? So I did a bunch of research and I found some interesting numbers. I think they were disappointing numbers for me, honestly. And I think that in some ways it made me realize that even though I've had a very positive experience being a woman in sales, there still is some blocks that exist. And yeah, I guess I'll just share some of the numbers that I found and thought were really shocking. I will have these sources in the show notes, in the description. I will have them somewhere listed for you. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing podcast wise yet. So you'll be able to see where these numbers came from. But the first one that I saw is that in general, 75% of women in leadership roles, so this isn't sales specific, this is just in leadership roles, experience some level of imposter syndrome. Wild to me. And this is like executive level leaders based on this study. The next one is that only about 1/3 of sales roles are held by women. And that number drops even further down when we look at leadership level in sales orgs. And then the final one is that 86% of women in quota carrying sales roles will hit their quota, whereas only 78% of men will hit their sales quotas. And I say all of this not to bash men in any way. I've had so many men be uplifting and helpful, and I've met amazing men in sales who are great leaders, who are great mentors, who uplift women around them, encourage them. But I do think that these numbers kind of back up the conversations that I've been having and solidify that there is a need for a space that is for women in sales to learn from other women in sales. And I love the idea of working with a mentor. Like, it's so great to learn from somebody who's already experienced what you're experiencing to guide you along this process. I thought of ways that I could try and match people up with mentors, and maybe that's something that we figure out someday through this podcast. But I think that the most impact that I can make right now as one person is to use my network, my connections, bring as many women as possible into this space, have conversations with them, share them with an audience of who knows who it will be. Maybe it'll just be my mom listening. Hi, mom, if you're listening and the only person listening. That was so corny. Sorry. I think that that's where the most impact will be. So bringing these women together, having one-on-one conversations with them, sharing those conversations with you, my audience, and also taking in requests from you guys. Who do you want to learn from? Is there a certain career path that you really want to follow, but you don't know anybody that's done that before? There's probably someone who's done it. Probably. We're going to learn from people who literally made up their own roles and took those roles and are now super successful in a different path. We're going to learn from people who started their own businesses like myself. So, all of that's to say, this is the format that feels the most impactful. If you're listening to this and you're like, I wish that there was this element, or I wish that there was a community where we could all connect, or I wish something else, please let me know. Like, this is truly a passion project designed for what it seems like the sales space and women in sales need, as well as, once again, just like fulfilling what I, as a young sales rep, really wanted and didn't have and didn't know where to find it. So, with that being said, that's how her mentor, came to be. So, we covered a little bit of info about what to expect. It's going to be casual, it's going to be conversational, it's going to be featuring different women. We covered why her mentor exists, format to reach lots of people and give people the resources that I wish I had. Third piece that I want to go a little bit deeper in on is what exactly to expect from this space. Her mentor is going to be a weekly podcast. You will be able to tune in every Thursday for a new episode of Her Mentor. You'll log in and you will see myself and another guest. So I will be the host and I will be leading these conversations with different women. Each week we'll have a different woman featured. Sometimes you'll learn from people who are currently in an SDR or BDR role, and they'll share their story of how they broke into tech. Maybe they came from a traditional industry. Maybe, I don't know, who knows what their story will be. They will tell you. We'll also learn from folks who are in leadership roles currently. We'll learn from folks who started in a really entry-level sales role and now are in maybe an SDR management role, AE role, CSM, SE. We'll see those paths. And then we'll also talk to some folks who made complete pivots in their career. We'll talk to the folks who started in a sales role and then maybe moved to something completely different and unexpected. So we'll have all of these conversations. They will follow a similar format for the most part. Goal is to, one, get to know the person at the top of the episode. So you'll get an understanding of their career path, who they are, why they ended up in sales, what they do now, how they ended up there. Then we'll talk through a specific topic based on their experience. This could be very different based on the person. It might be specific advice to be successful in, your current role. Maybe you're an SDR, maybe it'll be SDR advice. So we'll have that as kind of the middle section. Sometimes it will be, specific tangible advice that's really specific to a certain path that people might want to follow, might be super specific to a certain role that people might be in. But we'll also have other, conversations that are much more broad and give some guidance in terms of like how to get the right mindset, how to get promoted quicker for anyone, not just this specific path. So that will be kind of our middle portion of the episodes. And then to round things out, every episode will end with my guest giving themselves and you. And when I say themselves, I mean their younger self, their self when they started in their sales career, or maybe it's like 6 months ago. I wish I knew this one thing. They will give a piece of advice and it will be framed around what is one thing you wish you knew sooner or earlier in your career. So that is the format. That is what to expect. Episodes will be between 45 minutes to an hour each week. This week being an exception because it's just me talking. So that's what's to come with Her Mentor. The one last thing I want to touch on is, who is this podcast for? I think that from everything I've shared so far, you can probably deduct, like, of course, going to be a great fit for people who are, wrapping up university, thinking about moving into a sales role, maybe early on in their sales career. A female audience probably makes sense. But I do want to share that this is a space that, like, all are welcome. This is going to be fun. We're going to learn lots. We're going to talk to some smart people. We're going to talk to people that you wouldn't normally talk to. The goal with this podcast isn't to like someday have like Michelle Obama on. No, the goal is truly to have this be a space where women can come together, learn from each other, share their stories. So I'm so excited to have you on this journey for me. If you are interested in hearing a specific career path or a story or a certain topic, please send me an email, kelly@kellystewartcoaching.com. And I am more than happy to explore what that could look like to have someone in that area on. I will do my best to get somebody on to cover those topics. And the last piece is, of course, have to make a little plug. I'm a new business owner. If you are interested in any SDR consulting work, if you're an SDR who is looking for help with up leveling, trying to make sure that you hit like 150% of your quota this year because you can, it's so possible, it's within reach for you. If that's you, or maybe you are somebody who is looking to break into sales, maybe you're looking to get promoted to an AE, let's have a conversation. Love to work with folks one-on-one. Also, love to work with teams. So if you're leading a team that needs some help in the outbound space, let's have a conversation. I work with teams in a lot of different ways. So always happy to have those conversations. And I will stop with my shameless plug. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm so excited for you to hear next week's episode. It is a guest that I've known for several years and have learned a lot from working alongside her. And I am excited for you all to learn from her as well. So thank you so much. And I will see you guys same time next Thursday.